infrastructure spending doesn't stimulate your economy. You need to have a strong economy to afford to use those resources and invest in infrastructure, because the payoff for infrastructure spending is in the future. You have to pay for those jobs. Where is the money coming from? China's not going into debt, though. China has the resources. China has trillions. So as far as China's concerned, whatever money they spend on infrastructure is money they don't spend buying treasuries. So that's a net benefit for them. But if we're going to spend money on infrastructure, we have to go and borrow additional money. And where does that money come from? It comes from the private sector. It deprives the private sector of the capital that it would have used for other purposes. So we can create construction jobs, but at the expense of other jobs that have to be destroyed in order to free up the labor. Now, some people can say, but we have people who are unemployed. Well, but they could be put to work doing something else. And the reason that the unemployed aren't working is because of structural problems and barriers created by government. A bigger story is the one I read just the other day about the increase in imports of gold from China. They're really stepping up the pace of their gold imports. I think now gold is the number 2 export from Australia to China. And despite the fact that China is the world's largest producer of gold, they're not exporting their production. They're importing additional gold beyond what they mine themselves. Well, it's a huge factor because there's a lot of people in China, and they're also the world's, one of the biggest savers in the world, if not the biggest saver, especially if you count the Chinese government, because they have a bundle. And so if the people that are making all the stuff that we consume want to save their profits in gold and silver, that is a huge, huge. And of course, their currency is pegged to the dollar. So one of the reasons that demand for gold and silver is going to grow in China is because the Chinese government is still maintaining that currency peg, which means they have to import our inflation. And so they're going to continue to base the RMB in line with the dollar. And so if the Chinese want to protect the value of their savings, they can't do it in RMB, so they have to buy gold. And they have to buy silver. And so this is what's happening. In fact, this is going to be happening all around the world. It's not that people are going to be preferring gold and silver to stocks or real estate. They're going to be preferring gold or silver to cash, to euros, to yen, to RMB, to dollars. So people who want to have savings, who just want to put their money aside to spend it in 6 months or a year or 2 years or 5 years, they're not going to want to hold depreciating currency. They're going to want to hold something of intrinsic value that will maintain its purchasing power over time. And as more people figure out that fiat currency will not do that, cannot do that, because all the central banks have committed to print money, to prop up their governments, to prop up their banks. And so money is going to be debased. I mean, that's their whole solution. That's America's solution. That's Europe's solution. Debase your currency. Create inflation deliberately as a monetary and economic policy. And that means you're sacrificing the savers, right, to benefit the debtors. And so if you want to save and you don't want to be sacrificed on that altar, then what do? You got to buy gold and silver. And more people are waking up, and they're going to be doing it. And eventually it means the prices are going to go way up.